My job as the forestry supervisor for Highlands Ranch Metro District involves the care of all the trees on Metro District managed properties.
My name is Jen Garber and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for the Metro District of Highlands Ranch. My role in Arbor Day is to recruit volunteers to promote the event and to help with some of the logistics.
Arbor Day is a celebration of trees established back in 1872 by J. Sterling Morton in Nebraska. It is celebrated to this day throughout the whole country, and in Colorado we celebrate it the third Friday in April. Here in Douglas County, communities will be celebrating it on Friday, April 20th or Saturday, April 21st. Here in Highlands Ranch, we'll be out at Cheese Ranch Historic Park, and we'll have some volunteers with us where we're going to go ahead and dig holes, plant some trees, and recreate a historic orchard for the community at the historic park. Highlands Ranch Metro District is involved with other communities in Douglas County in coordinating one large Arbor Day committee and effort. We coordinate together to help each other plan, fund, and submit ideas for ways to benefit all of our Arbor Day celebrations. Parker has a celebration, Castle Rock, and many other communities, so if you're interested in volunteering for those plantings, I would contact those organizations directly.
Arbor Day is probably our key program, and through that program we bring out a lot of volunteerism. A lot of the citizens in the town of Parker come out to help us plant and establish some of these trees. We're looking at planting 50 to 60 trees per Arbor Day.
Public Works of Parker is one of the greatest organizations I've ever worked with. I mean, usually you get into a lot of bureaucracies, and these are just good people.
Well, I came here to plant trees for my town, and I think it's really good to have a town that has a lot of trees around.
I am responsible for not only the maintenance of the trees within the town, and that includes pruning and pest control, but also selection and planting of new trees for the town.
It's been a long time since I've been anywhere. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Holding your hand, wanting to see all what is known.
We will start at 9 a.m. and it'll go until noon or until all the trees are planted. Usually what we'll do at the beginning of the day of Arbor Day is we have somebody from the Forestry Service come and present us with the Tree City USA designation, so that kind of kicks off the day while we wait for everyone to get there and eat their little breakfast food and all of that good stuff. And then after that we'll split everyone off into groups and they'll start on we'll have the orchard this year, and then we'll be planting some shade trees as well, so they'll plant that, and afterwards we hope to be able to provide lunch for all of our hardworking, dirty volunteers.
I think getting involved in the community is something that a lot of the people that come down here for Arbor Day typically are interested in.
So, but basically volunteer recruitment is the best I've evolved, yeah. The tree planting and all of that, planning to our arborists. But we're always looking for volunteers, and volunteers are such an important part of this event, I think, because really we couldn't do it without them. And I know that they really appreciate being able to do this too. It's something that they can look back on and see year after year. Oh, I helped with that. You know, there's some events it's just kind of a one-time thing and it's over with. But with Arbor Day, they can keep coming back from year to year and see how much the trees have grown that they've planted and really see what they've done. Yeah, volunteers for Arbor Day, I mean, they vary. We get, you know, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops. Last year we had a family with, you know, really little kids, but that was fun to see because, you know, they made the comparison and we can come back every year and, you know, see how much bigger the kids have gotten in the trees.
Highlands Ranch Metro Districts coordinates with the National Arbor Day Foundation to participate in the Tree City USA program. Highlands Ranch has been a Tree City USA recipient for the last 18 years by meeting the following requirements. We have a budget of at least $2 per capita. We have a tree ordinance. We have a tree board or committee, and every year we do celebrate Arbor Day with an Arbor Day celebration. My advice to folks in Douglas County for tree planting is do your research and always plant the right tree in the right place.
We're looking to educate the public and encourage the public to use water efficiency in creation of landscapes. In other words, trees that use very little water, shrubs that use very little water. Our long-range vision is we want to see the town colorful, lush, but water efficient.
If anyone would like to volunteer for this year's Arbor Day event, they can contact me at the Metro District Office Building, which is 720-240-4909. Just give me a call and let me know which event you'd like to volunteer for, and I'll sign you up.
If people want more information, they can go to www.parkeronline.org. As urban forester and horticulturalist, I do deal with the public quite a bit. I am here as a resource for the public, particularly as pertains to their common spaces and parks and green belts within their communities and for developers, but I'm also available to answer questions for them on an individual homeowner basis.
Imagine that you are in the workforce, you're at the prime of your career, and all of a sudden things just start slipping your mind, and you're not even really sure what had happened, but you just realize that you had forgotten a lot about your job. And this just keeps progressing until you perhaps are at home and you're cooking a meal and you forget how to operate the microwave or how to put toast in the toaster. Someone that has Alzheimer's disease, we find that the symptoms of the disease start appearing sometimes a good 5 or 10 years before they're diagnosed. As devastating as Alzheimer's disease is for the person with the disease, and very definitely for their family experiences that loss while their loved one is going through the progression of the disease, that person with the disease tends to forget perhaps people's names, grandchildren's names, family members' names. When they finally get that diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, the disease has already progressed quite a ways, but there's a sense of relief because now they know what's going on with them.
Memories in the Making, the art program of the association, started in Orange County, California. And it was started by an artist by the name of Sally Jenny. And her mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And as the disease progressed, she needed more care and was placed in a care community. And when Sally's mother began to lose her ability to use words and language, Sally found the visits to be very frustrating. So she decided she would take her art supplies and when she visited her mother and paint. And she started painting and her mother joined in, and they found that together they could communicate through the art and through the painting that they could continue their relationship. We now have 45 sites in Colorado and 2 in Castle Rock. The Memories in the Making group at Castle Rock Care Center is one of the groups that meets at a skilled nursing center. Most of the groups are facilitated by 2 people. So there's a staff member at Castle Rock Care Center and a volunteer. And the 2 of them have been trained by the Alzheimer's Association. We have a 6.5-hour training that equip them with the skills of how to facilitate a group for people who have dementia.
Good morning. How are you? Good to see you this morning. Do you remember the painting that you did? The blues and the mountain scene?
Yes, I remember that.
That was beautiful. And it was selected to be in the auction. Did you know that? It's very good.
The groups consist of about 5 to 8 people with some form of memory impairment. It could be Alzheimer's disease or it could be another form of dementia.
You have tried so hard to get those horses in the barn, and they were the barn. You can't get them in the barn?
I put them here and they can't get in.
My mom passed away from Alzheimer's about 3 years ago, and she was in Pennsylvania, and she had had the disease for 8 years. And so I wanted to give back somehow because I was long distance, and my sisters were there. But so when I came back, I checked with the Alzheimer's Association. I had heard of this program, and they didn't have a program here, and so together we were able to get the program started here. So it's been about 3 years.
The Alzheimer's artist is different than an artist that doesn't have the cognitive challenge. The facilitator will often be their guide, and they'll remind them what the supplies are used for. And they can also provide objects of inspiration that they can model their work after, whether it be a shoe or a vase of flowers, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different than your usual art group. It's very important that the facilitators establish a very safe environment, that the artists know that they're not being judged, that they know that it's okay to try out different techniques and to try being an artist. They know that they're doing a lot of things incorrectly, and this is not a time to remind people that they're doing something incorrectly. It's just to support them where they are. Park your reality at the door and being with that person where they are that day.
Are you sleeping? You're taking a little cat nap, are you?
Taking a cat nap.
Are you?
Well, I tell you, it's difficult. It's something you have to put your head on for. When I sit here, I think, I'm here, what am I doing here? And I think, well, I am, so what's the problem? The problem is, do I belong here? And then I think, yes, apparently you do, because you're here. And then I think I want to go home now. And I am going away next week.
Are you?
Yes.
Where are you going to go?
Well, I have a home in Rome, Italy. So,
Do you?
yes, so I am going there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aren't you lucky?
And my family are already there. My daughter and her son and 2 kids. My kids, they're all
Wow.
there. And I intend to stay, God willing. people take care of me.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite a trip.
Oh,
You be
it's-
safe, okay?
Oh, yes, everything's okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's very different because sometimes the residents want to talk and sometimes they don't. Every day's different. So she was wanting to share about some memory she had about Rome and Italy and the fact that she may have lived there. I think she said her family was there. So she was reliving that and going on this trip because her family was there. I don't know if that was true or it's within her imagination, but for her it's real. So that's the important part. People in the earlier stages of Alzheimer's, when they get to a certain stage, they can't communicate much anymore. But in the earlier stages, they can communicate not logically, but through association with artwork or pictures they see. And so we work with some still life or pictures, and that helps spur their memories. And then we talk to them as they're painting.
Through that artwork, the patient can relive some of the memories of their past. They can express emotions in words that they can no longer use. They have a hard time speaking their feelings and their emotions and what they're thinking. So through the artwork, they're able to put that down on paper.
The benefits are the relationships with the people, seeing them every couple weeks, and sometimes they don't remember who I am or why they're here, and other times they do. Every day is different for them.
One of the biggest benefits are the stories that come up, the memories. Not all of our artists speak, but some do, and they tell us stories that come up during the artwork itself. Short-term memory often leaves people with Alzheimer's disease, but they have this well of strength. They're early memories, and often the early memories will come up through the artwork itself. This particular art piece is called Flowers for My Mother. The day this was painted, the inspiration object was a vase of flowers. And as this woman was painting the flowers, she began to reminisce about the time that she was in the mountains with her family when she was a young girl, and she and her two sisters would go off into the fields and pick flowers. This particular piece is called My Favorite Fishing Spots. The inspiration piece for that day was, I believe, a calendar photo of the mountains. And this gentleman began to reminisce about the cabin that he had in Bailey, Colorado, and how he and his wife rebuilt it, and how they would go out and hike and also fish. And he had a lot of favorite fishing spots around Bailey. And he wanted to preserve that in his artwork, and so he made a map of his favorite fishing spots around Bailey, Colorado, and this is it. One of my favorite sayings is, years wrinkle the skin, lack of purpose wrinkles the soul. And this is a place where people can feel purposeful. They're actually doing something. So that's another benefit. They love to come to art class. They get up in the morning and know it's art class, and they're going to be producing a work of beauty that day, something they'll feel good about.
Sometimes I'm really surprised when I clean up after. I'm looking at all my residents, and I'm seeing that they don't look as engaged as I thought I might be. But then I move on and keep going, and when I look back and start cleaning up, I find they indeed came up with their own composition, their own brushstrokes. And the name is surprising too.
Throughout the state, we have 4 art shows and auctions. The money is raised through sponsorships, and it's also raised through bidding on the art. So I believe last year, in 2006, the total raised was around $385,000. So it's one of the largest fundraisers for the Alzheimer's Association. The money stays in the state, and it's used to support the programs and services for the families and the individuals who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or related dementias throughout the state. The artwork that's chosen for the show in June is all beautifully framed, museum quality framing, and all the framing is donated. We have about 12 different framers, 8 to 12 different framers that we use in Denver, and they donate the materials and their time. But beautifully framed work. This year we had 2,600 pieces submitted for our art show and auction. And somehow that's pared down to 70 pieces, and it's pared down through a wonderful art jury of volunteers who are professional artists, and they pick out the show.
I just think it's a marvelous program because it combines art with memories, and it really helps them express themselves when they can't logically think things through. So it's really a wonderful program.
We're very, very hopeful that we will eventually discover a cure for Alzheimer's disease, which is what researchers around the world are working on. Everything that we know about Alzheimer's has been discovered in the past 15 years, about 95% of what we know. So we have all these new research trials, drug trials going on right now, and we hope within the next 3 to 5 years we'll find drugs and medications that can stop the progression. We have to keep the funding going for research, and we have to keep the research going. But we're very hopeful that we will discover at least some medications here within the next 5 years that can stop that progression.
Dementia does not diminish the urge to create. There's always that need to create.
You're watching the Network DC, Douglas County Television. For scheduling and program information, visit us online at www.dca.us.
And my name is Shirley Hansen, and I'm director and founder of Praying Hands Ranch. Praying Hands Ranch is 20 years old now in March. 20 years ago because of the need of our youngest child. My husband and I have 9 children, and our youngest was autistic. And we needed to do something for John that would be extra special and make him feel really good about himself. Hippotherapy, that's Greek for the use of the horse as a therapeutic tool. So hippotherapy is done by just therapists. They do traditional therapy with the use of the horse as their therapeutic tool. But the difference is one's the therapist, hippotherapy, the other is a certified riding instructor. After we learned a little bit about therapeutic riding, we decided that we would get a horse, do the therapeutic riding with our son, and because he was timid about a lot of things, and the horse was such a psychological feeling of overcoming, of tackling something new. And he did so well, we thought, well, we'll just maybe get a few more kids, and we'll get a few more horses, and we went and became trained and certified to start, and it blossomed. We had 75 children the first spring, and up to 100 the next fall. And then we've gradually come up with more staff, more therapists, more trained and certified riding instructors, and so we could give the quality towards the goals and objectives that are chosen by the parent. There's many, and the special needs could be Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis. Our biggest challenge is always having enough volunteers to surround our kiddos and our adults, and to stay long enough to learn. I mean, we have volunteer trainings before every 8-week session, but you can only teach them so much in one day. Now, we have some volunteers who've been with us a long time, and they are so knowledgeable and so able and so loving.
My name is Joe Johnson. I'm a therapeutic riding instructor for 15 years now. Started out volunteering. Wanted to come in and work with the horses and the kids and try to help out where I could. And then found the true therapy in the kids with the horses. And fell in love with the kids and the work and the friendships and relationships that were built with the kids and the other volunteers.
Joseph came as a teenager here. And he worked with us for years as a volunteer. And then he went off and worked at Griffith with troubled youth. And we were working with troubled youth here. And then he came back, and now we've just given him a promotion. He's going to be, he's called program director, and he'll be in charge of all the horses, their care, the programs, and the instructors. And so when you take him from a volunteer all the way up, he's going to be great.
So let's get everybody out to the arena. And there's my boys. I gotta go say hi to my boys. Praying Hands is a truly special place. Not only do we help the individual kids and clients who can be adults, there is as much healing in the volunteers as with the clients. How are you, buddy?
Good.
Go get your helmet on.
I'm Chrissy Serena. I started at Praying Hands Ranch probably a year ago, doing community service. Me and my mom loved it so much, we decided we'd volunteer, and we've been at Praying Hands ever since. I come to Praying Hands Ranch probably every Tuesday with my mother, and we're probably here from 4:30 to 7:30, helping classes or cleaning out stalls or sweeping, getting other horses ready. It's a new experience. You definitely meet a bunch of new people, Joe being one, and the kids are just great. It's just a new experience.
It's the kids that Chrissy has really fallen in love with and working with. I think they've softened Chrissy a little bit. She came in real hard, real rough. She's learned to communicate more and to be able to control herself more. She really has become a real asset to the program in working with the kids, helping them to communicate more.
There are many benefits for volunteers here at Praying Hands Ranch. I think some of the important ones are learning to care for others, getting their eyes off their own needs, learning to be grateful that they are blessed with abilities that some of the clients don't have. Learning to give of themselves is, I think, a tremendous benefit.
Volunteers are a true integral part of our program. The kids become special to you, and you grow true relationships with them. And I encourage all of my volunteers to build those relationships and to get attached to a kid that can be their kid, that they can play with every week, and that they can see the changes in what they're doing also. We as instructors, we have to deal with the entire class. We have to work with each kid. And we don't get as much of the one-on-one as the volunteers do. And they get to help us as instructors out in achieving our goals for the clients.
We create the programs to fit the needs of the clients. And we have an advanced group of clients now.
If you have a client that you're trying to train their gait, to try to train them how to walk and teach them how to walk, then you want a horse with a very natural gait. If I have a very hyperactive client, I need a very slow horse to be able to slow that client down and calm him down. If I have a client that's very lethargic, I want a horse that is just ready to move and wants to go. We need to pick our horses very carefully to know which ones will work for that client to build those skills.
Rebecca Waters. I'm 10 years old. Learned how to ride really good and spell my name on a horse.
Rebecca was in speech therapy, and the speech therapist did a lot of things with Rebecca to help her enunciate, to help her get her words out so people could understand them and she could feel more comfortable with herself. And she was very shy and quiet compared to what she is today. She's more outgoing, she's more confident in herself. She has come a long way.
When she originally came, she had a real hard time with speech, with learning her numbers and her alphabet, and learning to verbalize her thoughts, along with balance and coordination skills.
And they help me speak better sometimes. And my balance. Mostly hold my hands out, or turn around on the horse and close my eyes sometimes, hold my arms out, go laps, or trotting.
She grew to the point where she could communicate well what she wanted. She's a very special young lady. She's a good kid. We have a lot of fun.
Now she's in riding, the equine program, and she's learning to control the horse. And learning to control the horse really helps us to learn to control ourselves, our emotions, our fears, and our anxieties. So we've seen Rebecca come a long way. Part of our vision, the Lord gave us a vision, 30 years ago. And so far, every step has come true. The step that hasn't come true yet is a residential. And that was our hope and vision for Praying Hands. And when we first got Praying Hands, it was always plural. Praying Hands Ranches. And so we're expecting more ranches.
The biggest thing I can tell volunteers when they come on, it's a lot of work. If you stay all day, it's an average of 10 miles of walking every day. But what you get from the kids and what you get from the clients far outmatches the work. When you have the kids come in and holler your name and want you to work with them, and they don't want anybody else, they want you to work with them, that will touch you in ways that you will never be touched.
It's really not about the time, 1 hour can change it anyway. Just 1 hour with one kid and walking around that arena, it clears your mind no matter what. You could be here for 5 minutes or an hour, it still clears your head. Joe, the horses, the kids, the environment, it's just a very calm and relaxing thing to do. I've become more respectful for who people are, no matter what kind of disability they have.
The best part of it is just the kids, the young kids don't think of it as therapy. They're coming out to ride a horse. It psychologically helps them to just feel really great about themselves. They're doing something that a very small percentage of people can do. That makes them very important in school and when they talk. So besides the physical, psychological, and it's just plain fun, good exercise, a place to come, a place where they're accepted, where everybody loves them and everybody loves everybody right where they're at. And that's so wonderful for them to have a place to come that they love.
We truly here try not to just help the client, but make the ranch as much of a family as we can. We try to be there as much for the parents, to give them a shoulder to cry on, to give them someone to vent to give advice, to talk. We try to help everyone that walks through the door in one way or the other. And whether it be the instructors or Shirley or the volunteers and the relationships that they build, everyone who comes leaves a little different person and leaves better than when they came in.
You're watching Click on DC. Only on DC-8.
The Schweiger Ranch, of course, has been here for a lot longer than Lone Tree has, almost 100 years longer. It's a part of the state of Colorado's history, certainly a part of Douglas County's ranching and farming history, and now it's part of Lone Tree's history.
What we are doing is working in partnership with the City of Lone Tree about the future of the ranch. The ranch has a long and storied history of being settled by immigrants from Austria back in the mid-1800s up into its current use, which is very limited but used as a base for cattle operations. And we're looking to really turn this property into a community amenity, a community asset, if you will, that could be a focal point for not only the citizens of Lone Tree, but also the residents of Lone Tree who live in our project of Ridgegate.
So it made sense from a historic preservation sense that we should do something to keep this property from falling into further disrepair and deterioration in order to preserve it for future generations who may want to have a hands-on touch, a look-see feel of what was life like in Colorado in the late 1800s, early 1900s, through the mid 1900s.
My father came in 1879 to America. Well, he came earlier than 1879, but he landed on that particular land there in 1879. He came from Austria, you see. He was in Austria, and he worked around a year or so in the East and get a little money. Those people never have any money. And he and some other fellows, they were together in a ship, you know, and they came to Colorado. My father always wanted to go where the hills were. He loved the hills. He wanted a big cattle ranch is what he wanted. He was looking for that. He was just a young man, 22 or 3 years old when he did that. Then when he got to Denver, he couldn't get any farther. He run out of money again, and he didn't know just what to do. He couldn't talk the American language very good, you know, and so he came to this place. He came to Denver, and he kept asking about these hills out here. You can see the hills, you know, could see the hills in those days because it was all open country. There wasn't a fence or nothing there. Nothing. No houses, no nothing.
The oral history was done in 1980. At the time, Rose was 95 years old. So that would make her, 122 years old right now if she'd still lived. She died not too long after this. So this is her memories of her family from before she was born. And she was the oldest of 7 kids.
So at 95, she had a pretty good memory.
She did. Yeah, in 1980, she had a very good memory, I think. She did.
Show us on the map, Gunther.
Well,
I'm curious where they came from.
If I show you, this is like a map from Austria here. They came from a valley, the Zillertal, east of Innsbruck. So there was, right here is the valley, and the town, Zell am Ziller, is named after the river. Ziller is the river, and Zell means Zell on the river. The reasons could be manifold. It could be because of, number one, religious persecution, because before was a lot of upheaval, Protestants, Catholics, some had to immigrate to Silesia, they went to Brazil later, some went to Bolivia. There's the other theory about the conditions of health got better, that a lot of women could bear more children, so the babies wouldn't die in childbirth anymore. So that caused the overpopulation. The other thing, like you said before, going back in wars and territories from Napoleon to Bavaria, from over here and over there, military service. I don't want to go and
were the men conscripted at that time?
Yeah, so you had to go, and
so that might have been a reason that a family with 3 young men would have say, I don't want to fight.
That's right.
The mother died Teresa died in 1879, and it appears that Jacob lives into 1880, 83 perhaps. We're not sure about his death date.
Well, there was the 3 men alone. And they said, well, now, what are we going to do? He said, somebody's got to stay here and keep house and take care of the cattle. One of the brothers said, well, one of us has got to get buried. We got to get a housekeeper here. And finally one of them said, that's straw. One of them drew the straw that was to be married. And it was my father, John. He drew the magic straw.
So, jetzt Brüder, jetzt müssen wir entscheiden, wer da heiraten muss. So, jetzt müssen wir die Zindelsen-Ding ziehen. Jetzt geht's los. So. Oh, yay! Ich habe das kürzeste Tauchen. Ich muss jetzt heiraten.
In 1885, it is documented that John marries the niece of George Engel. And the Engels lived down in Lake Gulch, which is off of this map and down in this area.
So he meets this Engel family on Lake Gulch there, and for some reason or another, because they spoke German or whatever and had the same background, this Mr. Engel, he I guess was a well-to-do established man already. He says, "Come on over and visit my place," because what those three bachelors had to figure out was that they needed somebody to keep the household and to cook and do all this other nice work what they expected women to do, and it must have been their old upbringing. So Mr. Engel invites him, and Mr. John Schweiger shows up there every Sunday for about 3 or 4 months, because he's got like 6 women there. And from one of those 6, there's a real shy one, but this is the stubbornness of Mr. John Schweiger. That's where he's got his eye on. He could have had all the other 5, but no, he didn't want them. He wanted the shy one.
So he came, he rode up there 2 or 3 Sundays, and he looked at those girls, and finally he spotted one. And it was my mother, Anna. She was the last one of the ones that came. She was a timid little thing, and she was afraid of people almost. Well, he says, "How am I going to get near her?" He says, "I can't get her in her room alone. If I come in the room, she's in there, she scoots out. She goes out. If I go in the kitchen where she's working, then she's got something to do someplace else." Mrs. Engel said, "Well," she said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll talk to her about it." She said she's very shy. Well, in those days, whenever the elderly people said anything to the younger one, they did it, or else.
There was one thing, there was always this strict discipline of you do not talk back,
Right. Okay.
you obey, and if you have a big family, you had to do chores. And whether you like it or not, it had to be done, otherwise you get a little spank.
Yeah,
or
and that's
something,
exactly what Rose is talking about.
And this was the tradition.
In 1890s, we see on the map that John is filing for a homestead, and we see Joseph filing for a homestead, and we see other land transactions by the 3 sons of Jacob Sr. That tells us they are now down in Douglas County actively establishing their homes here. Rose's brothers, Joseph and Max and George.
There's John Jr. and Max are the ones that keep the ranching going, because John Sr. had a stroke and a heart attack, and so in 1925 he's out of the picture. He dies in 25. So the boys keep the ranch going, and it eventually ended up being, we're thinking about 3,200 acres that they purchased. They had all of these areas in black. One of the younger brothers, George, had a gas station in Castle Rock.
So the family is very involved in the county in a variety of ways.
Right.
Some in the ranching, some in the gas station, and some in the real estate and insurance business.
We had the opportunity to meet several of the family members at a designation ceremony in September of '04, where this property actually received a historic designation from Douglas County, which we were very pleased to receive as a historically significant landmark in Douglas County, and the only significant historic landmark in the city of Lone Tree altogether. We've been contemplating the reuse of this site for some time now, over the last several years, trying to determine what the best use for the site is. To that end, we've had a few charrettes with some of the local residents. We've also had students from the University of Colorado in Denver, architectural students, actually go into the property as part of their studio or class projects, come up with some ideas and suggestions about use and how the property would be used in the future. So that is what we've done historically, as well as perform some emergency stabilization on some of the key buildings, such as the barn.
We're very fortunate that the structures on the property, about 105 years old today, are still intact, still standing, and within this area of Douglas County, it is the last remaining historic property intact. It gives us a view of the life and times of the Schweiger family, and it's important for us to remember our roots. You stressed the coming from Germany, Austria here. They settle, they become part of a new country, and their descendants now are still part of our lives today.
It's an important property, I think, for the state of Colorado, for the metropolitan region. It's one of few properties that still exist certainly in the metro area from that era, and that still exist in repairable form today.
Well, the site itself is located here in kind of the southeastern portion of our overall development of Ridgegate, which encompasses 3,500 acres in the city of Lone Tree. The site, as you can see, is tucked adjacent to the Happy Canyon stream bed here, and that creates a setting where it is actually lower, it's adjacent to the stream, and then as you proceed eastward, because of the topography, there's some bluffs here. So it's somewhat protected and encapsulated between the bluffs and natural open space areas that will remain that way. And it's a great setting. It is fairly close to I-25, which obviously didn't exist many years ago, but we think that provides an opportunity for people to have easy access to the site over the long run. Currently, Lincoln Station is the southern terminus for the light rail, but it will be extended further south onto the Ridgegate property here just north of Sky Ridge Hospital. That will be the first station within Ridgegate. Then the tracks will go over the freeway and stop approximately in this location into an area which will be more urban, commercial and office area eventually. And then subsequently, the last station will be located here to the south, the furthest most station, in which we'll have an area for parking, eventually structured parking as well, to maximize the use of that parking facility, where people can jump on the light rail and then head all the way to downtown. We think this is a very important amenity to preserve, as I mentioned earlier. Part of the education process is to let people who live in Douglas County know that this is a resource that will be available to them in the near future. That education also drives the need for resources to generate the funds necessary, frankly, to develop the property so that it can become the resource and the amenity that we believe it to be. So we think it's important for people to know a little bit more about it. This will evolve over time, and we're looking for support, obviously, over time for volunteers to help maintain the property or participate in community functions, as well as give funds, give money.
If we don't look around and survey the territory, so to speak, it'll be lost forever. It'll be lost to the bulldozer and urban development or suburban development. And so what is a really beneficial thing for our future generations is that we have had such wonderful cooperation between the owners of property, our county, and those in our city who say that and see that we need to protect our heritage from destruction of the present, and that's all that we're setting out to do.